I don't even remember when or why I bought Celeste, but it had been sitting in my Steam library for months before I first played it. I'm not sure why I didn't just pick up and play it earlier, but boy am I glad I finally did. Celeste has been such an experience for me. In Celeste, you play as Madeline, who has challenged herself with the arduous task of climbing Celeste Mountain, for some reason. She doesn't even seem to know why herself, but she's determined to reach the summit. The mountain offers a fairly difficult set of challenges between you and the top. To accomplish this, you can jump and climb walls, but you can also dash, which defines the gameplay of Celeste as a core mechanic, so you'll be using it a lot. It comes pretty naturally, it's fast, snappy, and it feels pretty good. The game is very forgiving when it comes to general movement. For example, there are some moving platforms that'll give you a boost when you jump off of them with proper timing. The game gives you a split second after the platform comes to a complete stop to perform your jump and still preserve your momentum, which makes it relatively easy to do. It makes getting the maximum height out of your jump a lot less tedious. This does not mean that this is an easy game though. The level design is still plenty challenging. However, I think it's important that you're being challenged by the environment. You're fighting the mountain itself as you make your climb. You're not fighting the controls. In a platformer, good controls are vitally important, and I think they nailed it here. The controls in this game in general feel so fucking satisfying. Moving Madeline around while avoiding obstacles may be challenging and stressful at times, but never do you feel like you're not in complete control. Every time you die, it's very clear that you fucked up. But it doesn't matter, because hey, there you are again, ready to try again. The game doesn't waste your time to rub it in your face that you died. You respawn at the start of the room in an instant. Good thing too, because the game is pretty hard and you will be dying a lot. But it's as the game says, dying means you're learning, so you should be proud of your death count. Though, I can't help but feel a little judged by having these big numbers presented to me next to a little skull icon. Oh well. Every chapter, new mechanics are introduced that'll define the gameplay of that chapter, giving each chapter a very distinct theme. Mechanics of previous chapters don't carry over, so they never overstay their welcome. As the chapters progress, the game builds upon the mechanics, putting them in more complex situations while complementing your moveset. The mechanics in this game are honestly fun to work with. None of them feel janky or dysfunctional. I'm a big fan of the space blocks that go when you zoom through them, and jumping off of moving platforms while preserving your momentum is always fun. I find that the platforms in the Mirror Temple are the best for that, because you initiate their movement directly with the press of a button, giving you the most sense of control. The mechanics I had the most trouble figuring out were these bumpers for some reason, and especially the Cthulhu monsters, because they felt the most unpredictable to me. I swear these guys are designed to be sentient. No! One thing I really appreciate about this game is how much it encourages exploration. There are so many little secrets to find that it always pays to stop and take in your surroundings. There are strawberries scattered all over the mountain for you to find, and each chapter also has a crystal heart, which is unlocked by solving a puzzle, as well as a cassette which you can collect by completing a timed platforming challenge. Finding secrets is always rewarding, and they're all over the place. Every time you notice a little indentation in the wall or a crack in the floor, it reveals a secret, and it never fails to release a sweet, delicious rush of dopamine. I love me some dopamine, dude. Inject it right into my brain. The mountain doesn't just challenge you with its inhospitable terrain. It becomes evident pretty early on that the mountain has some mysterious effects on the people that climb it. According to the old lady, the mountain shows you who you really are and forces you to confront that. But then again, she does seem pretty kooky, so maybe it's all just a rumor. Well, this is a video game after all. I mean, what do you expect? I can act coy and pretend nothing is going to happen, but like, obviously, it will. This devious doppelganger is part of Madeline, and she represents her anxiety and insecurities. You can tell because she says she's only being pragmatic, right after berating her abilities as a mountain climber. That's how it typically goes, right? You delude yourself into thinking you're being pragmatic, but you're really just being paranoid and insecure. Clearly, Madeline has some doubts about this whole idea. She presses on in spite of this, running away from herself instead of confronting her internal conflict. I feel like I can actually relate with Madeline here. I mean, how often have I told myself that I can't do something and then justified it with being pragmatic? Whenever I try being creative in something, I usually get this idea in my head that what I'm doing is pointless because someone else has probably already done a better job than me. Even as I write this video, that thought pops in my mind. I mean, I'm so late to the party on this game. There's no way everything I want to say about it hasn't already been said a million times, and in a better, funnier, or more clever way too. It gives me this sense of futility, and it's not a particularly motivating feeling, but I still want to do it, and it's hard for me to put into words why exactly. I can get past the mental roadblocks by reminding myself that I'm not really thinking rationally about it, but still, it doesn't make me feel that much better. Anyway. Celeste Mountain is a beautiful place. It pays to take a little break every once in a while and just admire the environment. You can truly get lost in the mesmerizing visuals this game has to offer. Accompany this with the soundtrack, and you truly have a combined pleasure for the senses. Makes me want to go visit the mountain myself, go see the old forgotten ruins, the stunning caves, the mysterious temple, and take in their majesty in person. I also have to mention how well the music does its job of setting the mood. Not just the areas themselves and their atmosphere, but the music also reflects Madeline's state of mind, especially in the important story moments. It makes it easy to connect to her emotionally and understand what she's feeling. Even absent from context though, I can't help but be mesmerized by the environments and the soundtrack of this game. Like, I just want to go lie in the grass here and relax while listening to the rushing water. I don't want to spoil the whole story because I do think it's better to experience it for yourself, if you haven't played the game yet somehow. But there is one more thing I wanted to talk about briefly, and it's when you escape out of the Mirror Temple with Theo and you have a chat with him. This is Theo, by the way. He is the coolest character in this game. In this sequence, they discuss Madeline's motivations for climbing the mountain, and Theo says something that really struck me because I couldn't even tell you how often I've heard this said to me in my life. He says that Madeline reminds him of his sister because she lives so deep inside her own head. And he is right. Madeline came to Celeste Mountain by herself in an attempt to deal with her problems. Or to get away from them for a little bit, to be more precise. Madeline seems pretty insistent that this is something she can do herself. Or maybe this is something she has to do by herself, without asking anyone for help. She seems perfectly content helping others with their own problems though. Successful or not. Madeline doesn't really talk about her feelings to anyone, and deals with her problems in less healthy ways. It's easy to get stuck in an unhealthy mindset that prevents you from doing something, or that generally just makes you feel bad about yourself, where you don't talk to others about your feelings that much, which Madeline expresses she doesn't. Madeline coming to Celeste Mountain was in itself a response to her internal conflict, and the whole time she climbs the mountain it follows her around and messes with her, causing her panic attacks and general anxiety. It's not until after she befriends and talks to Theo and the old lady that she starts to view things from a different perspective, allowing her to properly assess her emotions and confront her inner demons instead of running away from them. Oh, well, I guess I am spoiling the whole plot after all, but I think this is pretty cool. What was initially an attempt to run away from her fears and insecurities ultimately turns into her way of dealing with it properly. Sometimes all you really need is to talk to someone to shift your perspective a little bit. When you finish the game in an amazing final chapter, you'll realize that there is still a lot to do. There's extra chapters, there's golden strawberries, and you have the B-sides and C-sides, which are souped up versions of the original chapters. They also feature their own remixes of the chapter's regular songs. While the regular themes tend to be more atmospheric, the B-side remixes have some boppin' tunes accompanying them. Especially the Mirror Temple remix sounds fucking groovy. Anyway, these extra challenges after the main story are for the real gamers, because this is where the game truly ups the ante in its difficulty. It also introduces some new mechanics that make it a bit more complex. You could always do them, but it's unlikely you would know about them until the game told you. See these space blocks? Well, turns out you can actually jump out of those and preserve your momentum. You can dash along the side of a wall and jump off of it for some extra height. You can wave dash, which is taught via PowerPoint presentation. It might seem daunting, it might seem this needlessly complicates the game, but boy does it feel very natural to do, and you feel even more awesome when you pull it off. And when you start getting the hang of these more advanced movement techniques, you start to view the level design in a different way as well. New possibilities open up, and you're able to play the game in a way that feels like you're doing something cheeky. Something that may not have been intended, which is always fun. It honestly reminds me of why I liked Super Mario Odyssey so much. Not once have I felt angry or frustrated with this game, even though I've died thousands of times. Fuck! Ah! Okay, maybe one time. Regardless, I've been having fun with the game the whole way through. I've been consistently impressed with this game since the moment I picked it up, and that's not something I can say for a lot of games. Celeste has captured a place in my heart, and I highly recommend you pick this up and play it for yourself. It's so worth it. And now for the question that has been burning on everyone's mind since the beginning of this video. Is Celeste actually transgender propaganda? Well, no. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a good day. I still can't fully accept that one angry gamer isn't satire, but I guess we live in a society after all. Okay, so the reason I bring this up is because there is a related issue here. Namely, the question whether or not Madeline is a trans girl. People bring up the fact that she has these pills here next to her bed, which could be HRT pills, and the fact that she has a trans pride flag are an indication that she might be trans, and maybe that's true. I think it's important to realize that you're making an assumption either way, because nowhere in the game is there hard confirmation. Actually, thinking about it, it could be very relevant to the story if she were trans. It could very well be one of the sources of her anxiety. In the end, it doesn't really matter to us whether she's trans or not, and neither does it matter to Theo or the old woman. The only person it matters to is Madeline herself, which is why we don't hear her talk about it. I mean, she does have a tendency to not talk about her feelings that much. When she opens up to Theo, she doesn't really get into specifics either. Theo doesn't pry for details, because that's just how cool he is. But that also means we don't get anything more specific than what she initially lets on. Oh, by the way, did you know that Theo actually has an Instagram account? I thought people were joking when they told me to actually look him up, but as it turns out, he is actually there. That's so cool, dude. Anyway, that's beside the point. I think there are some good arguments to make in favor of the interpretation that at least part of Madeline's anxiety is because of her being trans, and having to deal with the social stigma that comes with it, as well as self-doubt about her identity. But you know, it's open to interpretation, really. I don't necessarily want to invalidate anyone else's viewpoint. I just wanted to throw it out there, you know? Anyway, Celeste is a fantastic game. Go play it if you haven't already. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a good day.